order for the Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission at 6:30. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jack, Lisa is away at training, but she'll be doing the minutes via YouTube.
Okay, I figured that's why I got the automatic replies on
Extra
it.
clear into the mics for Lisa.
All right. I'll take some. Next item is public appearances, and this is public's opportunity to speak about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. I don't think we had any of those. We do have a couple of folks registered for agenda items, so we'll get to that in a minute. Item number 5 is discuss and consider the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting of June 29th. Any additions or corrections? Nick?
I'm trying to remember who was here, but wasn't Commission Member Pickle here?
She was late, but maybe she
Oh.
was a couple minutes late, so maybe she didn't get entered in there.
Okay.
So we'll just note that she was late. Okay. Yep. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the change to add Jennifer Pickle to the
Okay.
list.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second then to approve the Plan Commission meeting minutes of June 29th with the addition of Jennifer Pickle's name as a citizen member. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6 is discuss and consider ordinance 04-2017 annexing territory from the Township of Cottage Grove to the Village of Cottage Grove, Dane County, Wisconsin. It's a Helgeland Family Farm LLC annexation. I think everybody had the staff reports in their packet. I'll let Aaron and Matt talk about this a little bit. Do we have the property owner here tonight? Okay. There you go. Okay.
So basically, this was on the agenda last time. This is
Yep.
annexing the land that, as of last month, was going to be Drumlin Grove, but the applicant has withdrawn the plat application. But the landowners would still like to move forward with the annexation. So this was tabled last time, but they asked to have it brought back this month.
Okay.
3 steps that have to happen for development is urban service, annexation, and the plat.
Right.
So this would be another one of those steps, but it's the plat that really determines what the neighborhood or development is going to look like, and anybody who comes in to develop the land will basically be starting from scratch on
Okay.
the plat aspect of it.
One thing, I wonder if I got ahead of myself, we have a couple of folks here to talk about Shady Grove, and I don't think that was on the agenda that I have.
At this time, they'll be
Okay.
at the August meeting.
Okay. So I probably should have, I apologize for that.
Maybe after this item, we could go.
Yeah.
We could go back.
So this is not about Shady Grove, this is a different annexation, folks, okay? All right, so basically the property owner wishes to annex without the developer that was in accompaniment with him at that point. Is that correct? Okay. All right, any comments, questions on that? I mean, it's certainly property owner's prerogative, I guess, to annex if they wish to. Okay. If not, then I guess I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 04-2017 annexing territory from the Township of Cottage Grove to the Village of Cottage Grove, Dane County, Wisconsin, Helgeland Family Farm LLC annexation.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the annexation. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. We'll backtrack a little bit here. We have 2 people registered for Shady Grove, and I apologize, we have 2 different annexations here. So first, and I apologize, Jeff Trent to do. There you go. If you'd like to come up here so we can get you on microphone and camera, Jeff, and you can talk about Shady Grove. Sorry.
Well, we've been doing a lot of research, since we're both retired educators. We're doing our homework. And we sent this email to Jack, and we just wanted the board to be aware of this coming up. We noticed something interesting in the document packet included on your 6/29 online agenda, and we watched the meeting. On the staff report, page 120 indicates that 2 intermittent streams are running through the Shady Grove and are considered environmental corridors labeled EC2 and EC3. Then on page 123, there is a statement that EC2 and EC3 are not developable, and shall remain in a natural state. EC2 appears to be located near Outlot 2, which I believe is intended for stormwater management, and I imagine a pond will be built there, but that is hardly a natural state. EC3 runs through duplexes, multifamilies, and the single-family lots. We basically want to know is how is Shady Grove's concept plan consistent with the Meadow Grove subdivision vision as detailed in the staff report, keeping these things in its natural state. So we wanted to make sure that the entire board knew about that. Yes, sir.
So I guess more pertinent to your question, the environmental corridor is defined as a 75-foot setback off, if it's a navigable stream, it's off the high water mark of the stream. If it's non-navigable, I think they usually use the center line. So they can't build within that setback. You can have a private property within that setback, but it's not, they can't build on that area. So probably in the covenants is where we would typically, spell that out in addition to the plat that they can't build within that setback. The document you're referring to was basically that area was basically an example we used to look at formatting for how we're going to do our land use planning in our comp plan revision. The elements you were talking about are still applicable, but just as background, that document was not really in effect yet.
Yeah, I'm very interested right now. I'm going to be walking back there tomorrow with my turkey suit on just because of the mosquitoes. And I know right now the amount of water that's flowing through there, and because we can see where it's coming out. So that's where the biggest concern is coming to us right now.
Okay.
So I thank you.
Yep. And I know I was talking with Sue, we're emailing, and we had a couple other questions. I talked to JJ briefly about the pipeline setback, and we're going to look into that with the boundary. And then, like you said, the annexation petition, you can certainly, it's public record, feel free to
Great.
stop down. Okay?
Okie doke. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, the other person is Charles W. Roberts. If you want to come up here, sir, and
Yeah, I'm Charles Roberts. I live at 4364 Vilas Road in what is the old Vilas Schoolhouse. My family's lived there since 1951. One of the streams you're talking about starts above BB, Cottage Grove Road, near the Blair Dental Office, and follows through the woods through the proposed development into Mr. Zilke's land, and the next property is my property. It crosses the road into Door Creek Golf Course and then into Door Creek itself, and that's the area that I'm concerned with. Nobody gets what they want, but I would like it to remain in much of a natural state as possible. The reasons being, I grew up there. I was a kid running around through the woods. Lots of other local lads went through there. As I grew up, we found some unique aspects of that woods. Either side of the fence line, we used to call that Vales Woods in the proposed development, and the other property going west we called Showers Woods. Well, basically, there's not much difference as a woodlot. One side, the Vale side was grazed more, but it's still quite wild. Large oak trees, maple trees, variety of other trees. On the next property, Showers Woods, now Silky's property. One of the things we found was a wild orchid back in the 50s. I believe it was called showy lady slipper. And I would venture that it's probably the last, if it still exists, and it may well, it's the last showy later ship in the township, and certainly the village. So I think other things we found, there's a lot of bird life. The deer start up on the hill up above the Blair Dental Office. If the wind's blowing from the southwest, they're going to follow that ravine. They're going to follow all down through the woods. It's a natural corridor for wildlife. The water runs through there. It is a stream. 1 year, I was very surprised to see, after the water receded, on my property, which is on Vilas Road, there was a whole lot of dead fish there. And nobody emptied the minnow bucket there. It was just fish that had come up from Door Creek itself onto the property. Lots of unique things. At one time I found a jawbone of a pony. I took it to my biology teacher. She said she took it up to UW archaeology department. Maybe they just told the little kid that, but they said, well, it's probably an Indian bone, and it's clearly been laying in a water course for some time. So my main point is that it's both woods, either the proposed development in Silky's woods, are valuable in them by themselves. I don't think we know everything that's in those woods. There are probably more special plants, exotic plants, a variety of bird life, animal life, and my wish would be to maintain that, as much of that as possible. I don't. That's my main point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just as a note, during the urban service area amendment process, the environmental corridors and stormwater, those types of concerns that's the main focus of that review process. And the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission staff, their engineers have it reviewed. The developer's engineer, of course, looks at it, and then also our engineers review it as well. So I mean, there's a lot of eyes on it. And then ultimately the DNR, who's the regulatory agency on environmental issues, also has to check off on this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all taken place, and
It has taken place?
yep, that's all been approved. So
I think that'll be public record, right, Matt? I mean, those reports? Okay.
But my point, they may not be aware of some of the things that I pointed out.
right, some of those you're correct, yeah. And I would I'm sure the developer, they'll do their best to maintain what they can. I mean, but they won't be able to do anything that's outside of what's approved as part of that process. So
How far along is the process?
Not very at this point, really. I mean, we
Well, I
have to
mean-
come back with a precise plan before we can even consider this. It's kind of a concept at this point, is it?
Well, what they brought last time was a concept. What they're bringing next month is the formal preliminary plat.
Okay.
So you'll all be invited to that again.
That's when you get the details.
Just for example, I don't see how they're going to get the extension of Bus Road, a 24-unit apartment, and the footprint for the parking lot, all in between where the stream crosses BB and Bus Road. I don't know.
That's a good question, thank you.
That's all I got to think. Oh, the only other thing is, I think, probably it could happen, but it would make a great nature preserve, school forest, anything like that. So, and if it's all carved up, it won't support all these unique life forms. You know, if you leave a few oak trees, that isn't going to do it. You need the whole woodlot environment to maintain any kind of you know, significant representation of what it used to be like. So anyway, that's all.
That plan commission meeting, I think, is August 9th, the next one. So August 9th would be when we'll get hopefully some more answers for you. Okay, thank you. Okay. Item number 7 is discuss and consider village's policy toward outlots. I guess I'll let Mike take this. We've had some discussion over why we have them, JJ, and what purpose they serve. And
That's what, I think I'm just going to kind of give my recommendation like Mike did at the last meeting, and I'm going to echo a lot of what Mike said, so I'll try and not say anything a second time. But essentially the discussion started with the possibility of leaving stormwater infrastructure for residential developments privatized. And while it may seem good on its face, I think it could create a lot of issues for the village moving forward. Mike laid out a few of those where developers went under and they're just looking for someone to take ownership. There's the issue with do you have a homeowners association responsible for this? And I think Mike mentioned this too. While there are short-term operational and maintenance costs, mowing, cleaning of outfalls and inlets and things like that, they're not overwhelming or significant typically. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later where the pond it needs to be dredged, and that's where the costs get into the tens and hundreds of thousands. And my only worry, I guess it wouldn't be my worry, but whoever's in that seat is those homes are going to have turned over 2 or 3 times, and if the homeowners association's faded, the developer's gone, and then the village comes and says, as an MS4 permitted community, we need you to dredge this pond, and this is the agreement that was agreed to 50 years ago, do you have your $175,000 from these 40 lots? I anticipate that would be a big problem. And Mike mentioned that on a lot of commercial properties, there are private maintenance agreements, and we actually have those on our GIS. We can bring them up and track them and monitor those. And when those properties change hands, it's a lot easier to make sure that the new owners are communicated that fact. I don't know that I like the idea of dozens of realtors being responsible for communicating the fact that, oh yeah, when you buy your dream home here, you also have a unique situation with this pond down at the end of the block. You have 1/50th stake in it. Okay. And that's where we are a permitted community regulated by the DNR, and that's where they look at us as a whole, where I think where we can keep those in our hands and on the public side. And not to say that we don't need to do more work on our stormwater budgeting and planning, but at least we have the control of it. And I think that's the part that would scare me the most is giving up that control.
Nick, you had a question last time about the budget. The total stormwater budget is about $24,000. 5,000 of that is professional services for general some engineering work. And then the rest of it is part of the DNR's adaptive management program, which JJ and Mike could maybe touch on a little bit. That's the bulk of our stormwater budget.
Is that going towards MMSD?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and MMSD is running projects that they want the different communities that contribute to, the sewer collection at MMSD for getting their phosphorus limits down, going to the Yahara River, Rock River system. So the village stormwater is also, going to the same river system, and so that's what we're looking at from stormwater side. They have projects that can help, eliminate two things, you know, some of the larger stormwater projects we may have to do, and kind of control the building of tens of millions of dollars facility at MMSD by doing these adaptive management things on ag practices, you know, that maybe large dairies, things that they were looking at north of, you know, Wanakee and Middleton, different projects around the basin where they can get the most bang for the buck, basically, on what's getting into the river directly. Some of the communities may be asked on the stormwater side, too, to participate on projects, but so far it's been mostly ag-based. Those things can help in stormwater, and then, of course, with the gross amount of wastewater charges the village experiences. Certainly if they have to build a large facility, that increases rates, and they're trying to do something that's maybe a third to a fifth of the total cost of building that facility. So that's what the adaptive management program is. It gets the phosphorus down by other means than just putting something at the end of the treatment plant.
Okay, so the outlots requirements basically come from us that we may need it for this purpose or it's for this purpose. The developer doesn't plat the outlots, is that?
Yeah, and the charges that are going to there are going to MMSD, I believe, Matt, that's
Okay.
what it is. It's a program, and it's really MMSD is kind of taking the lead on where those projects happen.
Okay.
Right now, it hasn't been anything particularly in Cottage Grove.
And as we bolster this budget moving forward, one of the other questions I think, or concerns Mick had was, you know, is development as they come in, would that development's tax base carry its weight within the budget? And I think the answer is clear, you know, clearly yes at this scope. For instance, Shady Grove, fully built out will be 24 million. That would bring in $140,000 a year in taxes for the village and $346,000 for the school per year. So certainly, any outlots, if they were to remain public, that the village would maintain, would be able to cover that with those taxes. So, and then some, obviously.
Any other comments, Phil, John?
And then, in addition, a stormwater model would really help our engineers and public works, and then the board make decisions on prioritizing stormwater projects. So a computerized model that would show if we did a certain improvement in a certain pond, we did a dredging, how much would that help our bottom line stormwater wise? And it's just one, as I mentioned last time, comparing doing a stormwater model to, and it's that up against maybe a new additional police officer. The stormwater model always loses. So it's been something that just hasn't made the cut. But hopefully, you know, it can move up the ladder.
And I don't want to lobby, but the fee that goes to MMSD is based on sort of here's how much you're releasing for phosphorus right now, and that's what the model would get to the bottom of.
Okay.
Our belief is that it's lower than the gross amount that they put into a contract with the village. So,
Okay.
you know, we have anytime we can give them the new number and, you know, change the rate we put into the adaptive management program.
Sure. So they built in a safety margin or whatever they want to call it?
Just, yeah, it's kind of like a number based on kind of here's how big the village is. So it's probably this.
Okay. Any other questions?
A couple comments. One, I guess I'd like to know the age of the facilities we have. We have 90 facilities. What goes through my mind is there's been a lot of development that's occurred in a short period of time. And so whether it's the homeowners doing it through an association or it's the taxpayers of the village, eventually those are going to be dredged and there's going to be payment made. And if we were only looking at $10,000 a pond, you're at $900,000. If you're looking at $100,000 a pond, you're $9 million. So eventually, maybe we won't have to pay it if we move out of here in time. but somebody's going to pay that bill. And if we don't start looking at that, really what we should be doing is a study with a sinking fund to make sure there's enough money to pay for these improvements when they occur, so we don't end up with one-offs, especially within a short, let's say, 5-year period where you have a lot of these that need to be done, because otherwise that could be quite a hit. I'm not as concerned about the homeowner associations. I work with those in Middleton. You know, the reality is that homeowners associations need to do the same thing. They need to have a study done. They need to be putting away enough money every year to be covering this, and you do that. If you have private streets, you do that. You have private infrastructure, you do that. If you don't, then you're not doing what you're responsible for doing if you're part of a homeowners association. I think either way it works, but the issue I'm concerned about is just long-term. Somebody's going to pay the bill, and you could have a lot of people that are not going to pay the bill in a 15 or 20-year period. Then you're going to have people that are just going to get a huge bill. The work that has to be done, when they have to be dredged, they have to be dredged.
And I think that 90 number included some water utility, sewer utility, park outlots, so I think it's a lesser number.
It was 90 parcels. Some of the parks are made up of multiple parcels, and the actual number of
But-
stormwater. We can figure that
But
out.
point taken, I mean, yeah. I mean, just like we do for other capital projects where we budget the same amount every year, and some years there may be $100,000 in needs for equipment, but you still budget 200 some and you save that money for a year where you need more. We could do that same concept with stormwater.
I don't know if that requires a motion for a change in our policy, but I think it's good to understand what this is about and maybe consider this at every budget cycle. Is everybody okay with the explanations we've received so far? And I mean, it's been educational for me too. If I was a developer, I'd want to put as many houses on a development as possible and not so many outlots, but having the outlots may serve a purpose too. So. Okay.
We'll report back to the board and get some more direction.
Yeah. More information is always better. All right, thank you. Number 8, discuss comprehensive plan draft economic development chapter, and that's Aaron.
Yeah, you should have a copy of the draft chapter in your packet. It's fairly lengthy. The CDA kind of had the benefit of doing this 4 or 5 pages at a time over a long period of time. This is kind of a lot to go through all at once. So I guess I'm mixing it all already. So I can kind of take your cue. Do we want to be quick or do we want to be thorough going through this?
Sure. And I think it makes sense to take it piece by piece like you're doing it. I mean, it makes sense to me. I kind of like what I've seen in the packet. I haven't printed it off yet, but any comments, questions from
I
planning?
think what Aaron's asking in his review tonight, how much detail do you want him to cover, because it's a lot of pages.
I had a chance to read it, and
Yeah.
I thought it flowed really well. It was fairly easy to understand. I mean, some of the graphs are a little busy, but I get it. You obviously have access to that information, but yeah, I really liked the analysis. The one question I did have, under the SWOT analysis, I think on the bottom of the page, it's 125, and it's page 11 of this chapter. Under opportunities, it talks about village-owned land in Commerce Park. How much land does a village own out in Commerce Park?
You mean total or just currently available?
Currently available.
Good question.
Is there a number? I mean,
Less than,
Approximately 20 or a little less acres.
Yeah.
started with, well, the whole park was 130,
Yeah.
and the village owned maybe 90 of that.
So Goodorsey owns some of it, I think.
Yeah, there's interested parties in a couple more, so I mean, should be filling up soon, or 1 or 2 that we're just waiting for the right puzzle piece to fit in.
and then does the village still own land in, what is it called, Progress or whatever, where the law enforcement,
Cottage Grove Business Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
3 acres.
any interests, so that's kind of been sitting vacant for.
Yeah, I know Andrew Homburg had said there's not been a lot of interest back
I
there.
mean, the village has only owned it for a year and a couple of years.
Yeah.
But that's being discussed right now. The board's been discussing that as far as space needs and future needs and things like that, so. yeah, if it's determined to not be a village future use, then I think the board would be looking to sell it.
Okay, good.
Just trying to get our information together before we sell it, because they don't make more land.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
I thought it was really well put together and easy to follow. It was very, I learned a lot.
Yep.
A lot of information that was good.
Right. I would agree. I mean, I like the format. Okay. I guess I'll keep up the good work with that. Item number 9 is discuss the comprehensive plan data for housing chapter. That's also was electronic in your packet. Any comments or questions on that? I think along the same lines, it makes sense. It just, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle in the comprehensive plan.
So we'll take this information and kind of consolidate it into the housing chapter and bring that back to you guys. So basically, I guess, just wanted you to have the data up front, see if there's any questions about that. And then the other aspect of this, I pulled out a few pages of a housing needs assessment that Dane County did in 2015.
Yep.
They were looking more at affordable housing and ensuring Dane County has, housing that police officers or teachers or other
Sure.
lower income people can live in. So yeah, I just wanted the commission to be aware of that report also.
I guess the one question I had is kind of general, like with the Shady Grove or the Helgland property, if they're to develop, is there a certain amount of multifamily that they have to have, or they should have, or is there guidelines, or just, is there a way to explain that?
Yeah, right now in the comp plan, it's based on, areas that are defined as planned neighborhood, which Shady Grove is one of those. It comes down to percentages of units or a range of percentages.
Okay.
I think it's I don't have it in front of me, I think it's a minimum 65% of the units have to be single family, and then.
Okay. Then the developer can go higher if he wants to. Okay.
For that, yeah. I think as we go through our. 5%? I believe that's the.
Okay.
Take the wetlands out of there?
As a percentage of units, not as a percentage of land. So yeah, the wetlands.
It's good to know this stuff. Okay. Any comments or questions from members on that? Again, I like the way it's easy, it's good reference material, and it's quick defined answers.
I think things to think about as we continue to work on this chapter. I think right now a lot of the housing units are pretty similar in the village. There's a lot of lots that are the same size, a lot within the same price range, same size. And I think the stock we have is good for families with kids, and that's what we have a lot of in the village. But we don't have a lot of younger single people. We don't have as many seniors. I think a lot of that is because they don't have places to live. So I think not only in the housing chapter, but as we go through the different land use areas, I think we want to think, how can we add a little more variety to our housing stock in the village? I guess you can tell me how important you think that is as we go.
Well, thank you for the work so far. I mean, I think it's very helpful. I guess that brings us to item 10, comments from commission members. Mick, anything?
Comments?
Okay.
No comment?
John?
Just a couple comments, and it relates to the Shady Grove development. Obviously, last meeting we were presented with some questions, some statements, some signatures, and I think we should probably be prepared when we do vote on that for next month. I did contact Kyle Broom, who obviously is a realtor here, and he thought the 200 plus homes, currently the inventory is a fraction of that. I don't know if you heard back from the school board, if you invited them to come to one of these meetings. And
Jared Rosing, the business director, is on the CDA, so I talked to him on Monday, and he kind of tentatively said they could be there. But
okay, because I think that would be a concern of not only the residents, but myself and probably a lot of the people.
And it's good when we have people show up and ask questions.
Yep.
I mean, it's how it's supposed to work. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the school's going to look at also $346,000 a year that they'll get in taxes, in tax base.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, adding $24 million.
Yeah, and currently their studies show that the schools will be at capacity here fairly soon, so it'd be nice to just hear from them as to what the plan is. So,
Okay.
thanks.
A lot of considerations, and again, August 9th is when we hopefully will have more information on that, and the annexation, and any future plans. Future agenda items, anything from staff or members?
As we just said, the school district, I think, we'll have Jared and Dan
Sure.
or the other here.
Good.
Shady Grove, public hearing, preliminary plat, and possibly Summit as well. Their architects are wrapping up the drawings. I don't know if they're going to get that
Yep.
for August or September.
Good.
They've got a little time to work on it yet before they have to decide.
All right.
So it could be a long meeting if we have one.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta have one meeting, not all the time. All right, item number 12, adjournment. Anybody wanna go home?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Do a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn, non-debatable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We are adjourned. Thank you.